Humans are unique in that they do not just endure suffering, they often deliberately walk into it, shaping it into a tool for meaning and growth, and this strange choice can be understood from many angles. Psychologically, suffering acts as a boundary that defines what is valuable. Without pain, success feels empty, and without struggle, joy feels shallow. So, people often seek out challenges, whether running marathons, pursuing advanced education, or engaging in extreme sports, not because they love exhaustion or discomfort, but because suffering transforms ordinary effort into a story of purpose. From an evolutionary perspective, humans have always needed hardship to adapt and survive. Discomfort pushed our ancestors to hunt longer, build shelters, migrate in harsh weather, and innovate under pressure. So, our brains may even be wired to connect pain with survival and achievement. In fact, neuroscience shows that voluntary suffering, like exercise or fasting, can trigger reward pathways and release endorphins, making discomfort feel strangely rewarding. Philosophers have long argued that this relationship with suffering is central to being human. Nietzsche claimed that greatness cannot be achieved without struggle, while Viktor Frankl, surviving the horrors of a concentration camp, showed that even in unavoidable misery we can choose an attitude that makes suffering meaningful, turning tragedy into a source of inner freedom. This pattern repeats in many traditions. Religions present suffering as sacrifice, a necessary purification, or a gateway to enlightenment. From the Christian image of carrying the cross to the Buddhist teaching that suffering is the first noble truth and the path to wisdom, to indigenous rituals that use physical trials as rites of passage into adulthood. Socially, suffering is tied to belonging. People bond more deeply when they endure hardship together, like soldiers in war, athletes in training, or families overcoming crisis, and these bonds feel stronger precisely because they are sealed by shared pain. On a cultural level, societies glorify stories of heroes who suffered for a cause, teaching children that sacrifice is honorable and struggle builds character, creating a cycle where new generations expect suffering as the price of growth. From a personal psychological standpoint, humans also sometimes cling to suffering because it is familiar, remaining in unhappy relationships, toxic jobs, or self-destructive habits because the discomfort of the known feels safer than the uncertainty of change, suggesting that suffering itself can become a strange form of stability. Yet at the same time, people often choose suffering in order to feel alive, because life without challenge can feel numb. A world without obstacles, while comfortable, quickly becomes meaningless, and humans seem to need friction to sharpen their sense of purpose. Therapists and researchers have noted that moderate adversity can build resilience, empathy, and strength in ways that ease never could, while too little struggle leads to fragility and a lack of direction. That is why parents often allow children to experience small failures, why coaches push athletes beyond comfort, and why many people find meaning in voluntarily choosing short-term suffering, fasting, cold showers, intense training, because it forges long-term growth and self-mastery. On the darker side, some individuals develop patterns like the martyr complex, where they unconsciously seek pain in order to feel morally superior, loved, or validated, showing that even unhealthy forms of chosen suffering stem from the belief that pain has a purpose. Still, the healthiest relationship with suffering appears when people consciously transform it into something beyond themselves. Caring for others despite exhaustion, enduring hardship for the sake of a dream, or facing illness with dignity in order to inspire others. Here, suffering becomes less about pain and more about transcendence. Humans step outside the immediate experience of hurt and see themselves as part of a larger narrative. This is what Frankl called tragic optimism, refusing to deny the reality of suffering but insisting that meaning can always be carved out of it. In practice, this means Three pathways emerge: creative values, where suffering motivates us to build or contribute something valuable; experiential values, where hardship deepens our appreciation of beauty, love, and life; and attitudinal values, where choosing our stance toward unavoidable pain becomes an act of freedom. Put simply, humans choose suffering when it transforms pain into purpose, chaos into story, and limitation into growth. We seek it to prove we are alive, to connect with others, to overcome the meaningless void of comfort, to show ourselves what we are capable of, and to feel that the weight of our struggles is not wasted but redirected into strength, resilience, and meaning. This paradox is what defines humanity.